Barbarian is probably one of the most fun classes in terms of dancing around on the battlefield and hitting your enemies like a truck while you're at it. Literally pulverizing them against the walls, deal with big packs of mobs in no time, and also clear bosses quickly. Hey, what's up guys? It's Rend4. I'm again back with a new guide for Diablo 4, and today I'm gonna share my Barbarian build with you guys, which I've been using since the beginning, now moving towards the end game. After trying many different builds, I can tell that this is one of the more powerful ones out there and also a lot of fun, so let's get right to it. Alright, so here we are on Nightmare difficulty. I'm currently level 62, but I want to say that this build should work for everyone. People who just got started with Diablo, who want to have a basic explanation on a nice working build, while we're also going to take things more in depth, as you'll be able to use this one to make your way towards the end game, as that is where I'm currently at as well. So for this build, as basic attack, we're using the Lunging Strike. This one hits very hard and allows you to heal up as well if you hit your enemies with the secondary upgrade, while with the final one, we take the Berserking, as every time when you hit your enemies with critical strikes, which we're going to do a lot with this build, you will apply the Berserking, so you will deal even more damage. As core ability, we're taking Rend. This is one of my favorite abilities as it deals a lot of damage over time. Dealing direct damage with Rend will also extend vulnerability, which also deals more damage to our enemies, which is also something we're going to focus on. While with Furious Rend, we can also get Fury back after hitting enemies with it, as of course this is a core ability which does cost 35 Fury, but if you use it on big packs of mobs, you will actually get more out of it. The next upgrade you should take is Endless Fury, because especially in the early game, you're going to need that extra Fury buildup. Basic skills will generate 15% more when using two-handed weapons. Same counts for the Pressure Point. Your core skills, Rend, will have up to 30% chance to make enemies vulnerable for 2 seconds. So now we have a way to applying vulnerability, and then also a way to extend the duration of it. So you will always deal more damage to your enemies. But if you level up, you want to focus on the Challenging Shout. Unlock this one as quick as possible to get a lot of damage reduction every time when you use this. Gotta be awesome in elite fights or against bosses. Also take this one right here to get maximum life increase and also gain 3 Fury each time you take damage. This is awesome against big packs of mobs because they start hitting you, you have reduced damage taken, and of course build up your Fury faster so you can deal more damage. Then you also want to focus on 2 Brawl abilities. This is where the build starts to become a lot of fun. You will literally one-shot elites with these abilities, as we're gonna crush them against walls. Man, it's just so much fun to dance around on the battlefield, but I would say the first one you want to focus on is Leap. This one will allow you to engage on enemies, but also jump away from them, especially in boss fights. I think this one can be pretty useful to run away from sticky situations, while with a certain aspect, it allows us to deal even more damage over a certain amount of time, which we're going to talk about in a second. But if you upgrade it, you can reduce the cooldown by 4 seconds if you just use it to travel. And as you can see right here, Leap is a lot of fun to use to just jump over things. You don't have to use ladders or anything else. Close gaps a lot easier. And finally, we also want to take this ability Power Leap. If Leap damages an enemy, you also gain 40 Fury, as then it's going to be even easier to be ready for battle, deal a lot of damage, but we also take the Charge. This one makes you unstoppable, and as Barbarian, it's pretty important to have something that allows you to become unstoppable, because if you're stunned or crowd controlled, let's say, this one will allow you to escape from those situations as well. Especially fun if you're ramming elites against walls, because you can simply crush them. Again, a lot of fun to use with a certain aspect, which we'll talk about later. But with the Enhanced Charge, we can also stun enemies if we make them collide with terrain. Mighty Charge will also make them vulnerable for 2 seconds, so another means of making enemies vulnerable to deal more damage to them. Then we're going to move on to the next tree, where I only have passives. I recommend you to only go for these if you are already higher level, but let's first check out the ultimate. I'm going with the Call of the Ancients. I played a lot with the Wrath of the Berserker, which I think is a lot of fun, while the Call of the Ancients is just so powerful against big packs of elite mobs or bosses. You can literally clear the entire room in only seconds. But then as ultimate passive, I take the Unconstrained. Increase your Berserk maximum duration by 5 seconds, so you will will berserk longer and also increase its damage bonus by 25%. There are many interesting ways how you can become berserk, which we're going to talk about in a second. But now let's move on to the passives, which you want to focus on when, of course, you become higher level and have some access points. The first passives I would focus on are this one right here, Pit Fighter. You will deal 9% increased damage to close enemies and gain 6% distance damage reduction, while No Mercy also gives you 9% increased critical strike chance against immobilized, stunned, or slowed enemies. You also want to put 1 point in Hamstring, so you can slow down your enemies. Another crowd control basically means more damage with this build, and also 3 points in Cut to the Bone, so your bleeding effects will deal 18 plus damage against vulnerable enemies. I also have heavy-handed right here. While using two-handed weapons, you deal 20% increased critical strike damage. So yes, we're gonna hit like a truck. You also want to put 1 point in Tempered Fury. The extra Fury is not the important thing right here, but the Invigorating Fury is, because now we can heal ourselves when we spend those Fury points for 9% of our maximum life. And this is especially good in combination with Rend, because with this ability right here, we will get Fury if we hit many enemies. So if you're hitting them all the time, you will basically heal all the time. Very useful in many situations. When leveling, you want to be sure to first upgrade your Lunging Strike and Rend ability, because those are your primary attacks. Then also focus on the passives later on right here in the Weapon Mastery skill tree. But in the end game, you can focus on the Imposing Presence to get 50% bonus life and also damage reduction against elites. I'm currently level 62, so let's also quickly check out the Paragon board. So what I like to focus on right here is physical damage, of course. Try to take as much strength as possible to ramp up your damage of the abilities. But right here, I have the Blood Rage. Killing a bleeding enemy has a 10% chance to grant Berserking. So if you're taking down big packs of mobs, you will constantly apply the Berserk effect. You will go ham all the time, basically. And right here, we also have increased damage while Berserking, plus 50% Berserking duration, so a lot of berserking. Increased damage to bleeding enemies and of course extra strength are going to be pretty interesting as well, while I'm currently working towards the plus 20% damage with two-handed slashing weapons, the ones which we're going to need and use of course to apply the Rend. Now, for my character, let me quickly hide my camera, because this is going to make it a little bit easier to explain the aspects. This one right here creates an Earthquake with Leap. Deal an X amount of damage over time. And if you're standing in it, you also have increased damage reduction. So you can basically go ham on your enemies, be a little bit tanky, and also deal some damage over time. On this Sacred Unique Chest Armor, I found this chance to reduce the cooldowns of your non-ultimate skills by 1.5 seconds when you inflict bleeding on elites. Since we're inflicting the bleed all the time, this is going to come in very handy to reset our cooldowns. If you're fighting elites, I think damaging them, granting you a barrier, can also become very helpful, especially in combination with this one. Deal 40% increased damage while you have a barrier active. So you can tell that some aspects complement each other greatly. On my X, I use the attacking enemies with basic attacks increase the damage of your next core cast by an X percentage. Since we're constantly spamming the Lunging Strike, then our Rend to basically build up Fury, then unleash it, while basic skills gaining attack speed can also be awesome to quickly attack with your basic attacks to build up that Fury. And to get an even higher attack speed, right here I also have critical strikes with core skills increase your attack speed by 24%. So a lot of different ways to building up that attack speed. If you look at my helmet, I have attack speed right here as well as cooldown reduction. On my necklace, I have movement speed, cooldown reduction. On the two rings, I have critical strike damage and critical strike chance most of the times. This is an amazing aspect, by the way, if you want to one-shot elites against the wall. Enemies damaged by kick or charge will explode if they're killed within the next 2 seconds, dealing an X amount of damage to surrounding enemies. Extra movement speed on the boots with also plus 3 max evade charges can be very nice in sticky situations. As gems, I always put maximum life increase, as you're going to be there in the front line all the time, soaking up quite some damage, while we also want to have plus critical strike damage to vulnerable enemies, because of course you're going to make those vulnerable with different ways. While on jewelry, I think resistance to all enemies is going to be best. Anyways, you definitely want to focus on strength, as it increases your skill damage and also armor, while HP is also going to become more and more important towards the end game. We also want to quickly look at my crit chance right here. Attack speed bonus. You can definitely ramp this up even more. While critical strike damage, you want to have this one pretty high. Vulnerability damage. Also crowd control damage. So damage versus slow, damage versus stunned. So there you have it, a solid Barbarian build, which is a lot of fun to play and also deals a ton of damage against single targets or AoE. Really doesn't matter, but definitely more fun than just spinning around with a Whirlwind 24/7. Right now, you get to one-shot elites against the walls with, of course, your brawl skills. Leaps also super fun to play. So I am very curious what you guys think about this build. Be sure to leave a like, of course, if you found this video helpful, and share your thoughts about it in the comments down below. I'm definitely going to make a follow-up video if we get further into the game, between level 70 to 100. But right now, it's 4 AM out. I would wish you a lot of fun with the game. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.